Ladies and gentlemen, a meme has died. After years of asking if Nintendo even cares about the franchise anymore, we're finally getting not one, but 2 Metroid games. One of which is coming out in a mere 2 months, and the other? At least we know what's happening. These announcements raise quite a bit of questions, most of which can only be answered by pure speculation. So without further ado, here's all we know about the 2 games and what the future could look like for Metroid Prime 4. The night before Nintendo's E3 spotlight, we had lost all hope on seeing a new Metroid game being announced. Little did we know what surprises were in store for us the following morning.
This is Metroid.
You guys in your dreams.
Not only that, but it was later announced that we would be getting a remake of Metroid 2 in September. So by now, if you're not a Metroid or even Nintendo fan, you're probably wondering why we're all freaking out over the number 4 and some 2.5D remake not coming to the Switch. Because let's face it, a lot of you haters have been talking some crap about how we got so easily excited about a barely minute-long teaser trailer that showed nothing but a title for Metroid Prime 4. Well, first of all, stop hating, and second, do you know how many years it's been since the last mainline Metroid game? 7. You know how long it's been since the last good mainline Metroid game? 10. It has been 10 long and painful years since we've seen a worthy entry in the Metroid franchise. Since then, we've had Metroid Other M, which was met with poor reception and even poorer sales to match it. The fact that Metroid has never historically been a huge seller for Nintendo also didn't help this case. And just when we wanted to see a slight glimmer of hope in 2015, Nintendo then announced a Metroid Prime Federation Force, which was nothing close to the game we wanted. It wasn't a bad game per se, but releasing a spin-off title in the then 5-year drought without a Metroid game was pure disrespect to every fan. As a result, that game sold even worse and to this day holds a staggering dislike-like ratio on YouTube. It was during this gap that a lot of us were so worried about the future of the franchise to the point where we literally made a video then titled, "Is Metroid Dead?" That is why we were jumping up with childish joy over seeing the screw attack symbol and the number 4. This was Nintendo saying, "We hear you, Metroid fans. We're listening. We care about Metroid just as much as you do." This was the ultimate sigh of relief that we've been holding in for almost a decade. More Metroid is coming, and we could not be happier. Starting with Metroid Samus Returns, coming on September 15th for the Nintendo 3DS. In case you couldn't tell by the title, this is a much-needed remake of Metroid 2 Return of Samus on Game Boy, which is practically unplayable due to its lack of color, similar-looking environments, and no map. This remake adds all that and more with a melee counter, 360-degree aiming, and badass 3D fight scenes. This project is being developed by Spanish developers Mercury Steam, known for their work on Castlevania Lords of Shadow Mirror of Fate on 3DS, who are being led by none other than Yoshio Sakamoto, director of Super Metroid, Metroid Fusion, and Metroid Zero Mission, which was a remake of the first game on the NES and a damn good one at that. Sure, he also worked on Metroid Other M, but despite his one mistake, there is no denying that this man is a master at game design. Just don't let him write any dialogue. Then of course is the big mother of announcements, Metroid Prime 4. Some of us never thought they would make a new installment to the Prime trilogy, seeing as it acted standalone. But this trailer proved otherwise. Although, it does make sense seeing as they used the Prime name in Federation Force released last year, and it ended with a cliffhanger like Metroid Prime 3 did. Both cliffhangers hinted at the return of a rival bounty hunter from Metroid Prime hunters known as Sylux, who serves as a challenger to the protagonist, Samus Aran. Prime series producer Kensuke Tanabe has expressed interest in making a game centered around Samus and Sylux's rivalry, and the endings of Prime 3 and Federation Force support his desire to do so. Now that Tanabe is done working on Federation Force, he has moved on to bigger and better things, like Prime 4. Oddly enough, Metroid Prime 4 is not being developed by American development team Retro Studios, who worked on the Prime trilogy. Instead, it is being developed by a new team led by Kensuke Tanabe. While some of you may be worried about Retro Studios not working on Prime 4, just know that key members of Retro left after Prime 3's completion, so it's not like the studio would be entirely what it was during the Prime trilogy's heyday. Not only that, but a huge part of the reason why the Prime trilogy was so good was because of the clear and concise vision Kensuke Tanabe had for each game. Him, along with the work of an incredibly talented studio, gave us one of the greatest trilogies in gaming history. With Tanabe leading the project either as a director or producer, Metroid Prime 4 will be safe. And let's face it, Nintendo knows how to hire talent, so we have the utmost confidence in whoever is a part of this mystery development team. Whether they're an internal development studio at Nintendo or a newfound one outside of the company remains to be seen. If it is internal, this means that this will be the first Prime game to be made by Japanese members. Metroid has always been more popular in America, so having the Prime trilogy be made by an American studio made sense. But it's never a necessity, seeing as Japanese games are still popular in America as well. Regardless, it will be interesting to see the perspective of the Prime games through Japanese eyes, even though the leadership under Tanabe remains the same. Could they try and make Metroid a bigger franchise in Japan? It's possible. Since shooter games are not popular in Japan, Japanese audiences could benefit from the lock-on features. We can speculate all day on what kind of game Metroid Prime 4 will be, but it's easy to do that when we know next to nothing about the game and won't for at least another year. So when will we see the game again, and better yet, when will it come out? It will all be indicative on if we see it at E3 next year. People think that because it was announced this early that we might not see it until 2019 or 2020. But ever since Breath of the Wild, Nintendo has made a very clear point to not announce games too soon, to the point where they didn't even have Zelda at E3 2015 the year after they announced it. Reggie did admit that they revealed Metroid Prime 4 early to bring hope to Metroid fans, but for all we know, Nintendo's definition of early could just be a year and a half early. They're not Square Enix after all. So by next year, if Nintendo announces that Metroid Prime 4 will not be at E3 2018, then we can safely expect a 2019 or 2020 release. However, we know how incredibly hopeful this is, but it's possible that Metroid Prime 4 has been in development longer than we think and is set for a late 2018 or early 2019 release with a huge E3 2018 spectacle in the same way Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild had these past 2 years. We know you think it's crazy, but remember once again that Nintendo does not like making people wait long for their games anymore. But yes, there are exceptions to be made. So thanks for watching this episode of the Commonwealth Realm. Personally, I'm a bigger fan of Metroid than Zelda, so I will be on these games like white on frickin' rice. And when we get significantly more info about Metroid Prime 4, perhaps it'll be time for a new series. But for now, we'll just have to wait by playing all these awesome games coming out, one of which is a Metroid game coming out in September. Seriously, what a time to be alive. Special thanks to our patrons for helping support the realm. You can also support us in other ways by subscribing to the Commonwealth Realm and hitting that notification bell by the subscribe button to be notified when a new episode is uploaded. Thanks for watching, guys and gals, and we'll see you next time.